Everyone looked at the sky. Then the screaming started. Horror creepypasta. The first person I saw freeze was a man dressed like a clown. Not a birthday clown. One of those street performers covered in silver paint near the downtown Riverwalk. I remember him because his face was tilted straight up toward the sky while traffic screamed around him. At first I thought he was part of some act. Then the bus clipped his shoulder mirror hard, and he didn't even blink. I slammed the brakes so hard people behind me hit the seats. "Jesus Christ, Aaron!" That was Melissa. She rode my late route almost every Friday after her nursing shift, usually calm, usually tired. That night she sounded genuinely scared. Outside, horns layered over each other in sharp bursts. The silver-painted clown stood inches from the windshield, staring upward with his mouth hanging open. He wasn't moving. Neither were the people around him. Half the sidewalk had stopped. I remember standing from my seat and hearing somebody near the back laugh nervously. "What are they looking at?" I looked up through the windshield. Nothing. No fireworks, no helicopter, no meteor. Just clouds reflecting the city glow. Then the screaming started. Not panic, not surprise, pain. The clown opened his mouth wider than I thought a person could and released this raw, tearing scream that made my hands lock around the steering wheel. All around the intersection, others joined him. Men, women, a little girl beside a hot dog cart. They screamed while staring into the sky. One passenger bolted for the door. "Open it! Open the damn door!" I hit the release. 3 people rushed out. Another passenger immediately grabbed my arm. "Don't let them back in," he whispered. His name was Victor. Construction worker. Rode my route twice a week. Big guy with a thick gray beard. I remember because his hand was shaking. Outside, the screaming spread block by block. People stumbled into traffic without looking down. Cars crashed. Someone smashed through a pharmacy window. A bicyclist rode directly into a light pole. And above all of it, more people kept stopping to stare upward. Melissa stepped beside me near the front. "Aaron, why aren't they blinking?" She was right. Every person staring upward looked completely fixed, dry-eyed, locked. Then the clown suddenly stopped screaming. Silence. He lowered his head and sprinted directly into the crowd, not away, into it. He tackled a woman to the pavement so violently I heard the impact through the glass. People started running. The clown bit into her neck. At first my brain refused to process what I was seeing. The movement looked animal, not angry, not emotional, hungry. Victor whispered one word. "Go." I hit the doors shut and slammed the bus forward, just as more people began attacking each other in the street. I drove through the red light. Bodies scattered. Behind us, the screaming kept spreading across downtown like a siren moving through buildings. And somewhere above the city, something flashed behind the clouds. Not lightning. Something moving. Nobody on the bus spoke for almost 3 minutes. That silence felt worse than the screaming. 32 passengers. Every one of them staring out the windows trying to understand what we'd just seen. I kept both hands locked on the wheel, while the radio exploded with overlapping dispatcher calls. Multiple assaults near Madison and people are attacking officers. Units advised avoid crowd gatherings, then static. The city outside changed fast, too fast. Cars abandoned at green lights. People running without direction, others standing perfectly still, faces tilted skyward. Whenever someone stopped moving like that, everybody nearby backed away from them. Nobody knew why. But somehow everybody understood. Melissa crouched beside the front steps, gripping the handrail. "They were seizing," she said quietly. "Maybe some kind of mass neurological event." Victor snorted from behind us. "People don't bite chunks out of strangers during seizures." Nobody answered him. A teenager near the middle suddenly pointed outside. "Oh my God!" I glanced right. A city bus identical to mine had crashed sideways into a bookstore. Its windshield was painted red. Passengers were pouring through broken windows, while two figures inside attacked anyone still trapped. One woman stumbled onto the sidewalk, holding her arm. Something chased her out. A man, or what had been a man. His jaw moved strangely, like he dislocated it. He sprinted faster than normal people run, not movie fast, human fast, the kind of speed that felt real enough to terrify you. He tackled her beside a newspaper stand. The passengers behind me started yelling, "Don't stop! Keep driving!" Holy shit! Then someone screamed inside my own bus. A woman near the rear had frozen in place, her face tilted upward. The bus erupted instantly. People shoved away from her. One man climbed over seats. Another passenger started crying. The woman's lips trembled. Then came the scream. It ripped through the bus so hard I nearly lost control of the wheel. Melissa moved immediately, not panicked, focused. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" The woman didn't react. She kept staring upward, even through the roof. Her scream cut off abruptly. Then she lunged at the nearest passenger. Chaos detonated. People shoved toward the front. The infected woman slammed a man into the seat frame and bit his cheek. Victor grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall. He hesitated. Just 1 second. Long enough to realize this was a human being. Then the woman turned toward a child. Victor swung. The extinguisher connected with a wet crack. She collapsed into the aisle. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The little boy hiding behind his mother stared at Victor like he'd just watched an execution. Victor looked sick. Melissa checked the bitten passenger. Her face told me everything before she spoke. "Aaron, we need to stop somewhere secure." "Where?" No one had an answer. Outside, sirens filled every direction, and above us, more flashes moved behind the clouds. Slow, massive, almost circling. I decided to head for the underground transit terminal near Harbor District, not because it was safe, because it was enclosed. No open sky. That mattered now. Everybody on the bus understood it without saying it directly. Don't look up. The problem was the city was collapsing faster than we could move through it. By the time we crossed 8th Avenue, entire intersections had turned into stampedes. Police cars blocked streets. Some officers were helping civilians. Others were shooting people. Sometimes both. We passed a grocery store where shoppers hammered themselves against the glass, trying to get inside. A church where dozens knelt in the parking lot, staring upward in silence. A rooftop packed with people filming the sky. I caught only a glimpse before Melissa slammed the sun visor down in front of me. "Don't!" she snapped. That was the first moment I realized she was more afraid of the sky than the infected. The bitten passenger in the back started coughing blood. His wife begged Melissa to help him. Melissa checked his pupils, checked his pulse, then quietly pulled me aside at the next red light. "He's changing fast." "How fast?" She looked toward the rear seats. "Minutes." I felt my stomach drop. Victor overheard. "Then we put him off the bus now." The wife immediately stood. No! Passengers started shouting over each other. He attacked nobody. Yet. You can't throw us outside. The husband looked barely conscious, sweating, teeth clenched. Then he whispered something. His wife leaned close. What? He looked toward the ceiling. They're still up there. Everybody froze. His wife started crying. Baby, look at me. He didn't. His eyes rolled upward. Then the screaming started again. Victor reacted before anyone else. He shoved the man sideways across the seats while Melissa pulled the wife away. The infected man convulsed violently. Blood vessels burst across his eyes. Then he attacked. He bit Victor's forearm through the jacket. Victor roared and smashed his head repeatedly against the window until the glass cracked. Passengers scattered. I pulled the bus hard onto the curb. Melissa grabbed the emergency road flare beside my seat and jammed it into the infected man's face. The smell hit instantly. Burned hair. Burned skin. He finally released Victor and collapsed, twitching. Nobody spoke. Victor stared at the bite on his arm. Not fear. Calculation. How long? He asked. Melissa didn't answer. She didn't need to. The wife of the dead man curled against the window, shaking silently. Outside, more people were beginning to gather in clusters, standing still, facing upward. Thousands now. The clouds above the city pulsed faintly with white light, like something enormous moving behind fabric. Then every phone on the bus buzzed simultaneously. Emergency broadcast. Seek immediate shelter. Avoid visual contact with the sky. Report aggressive individuals. The message repeated once, then every screen went black. The underground terminal was already packed when we arrived. I'd driven through rush hour crowds for almost 11 years, and I'd never seen human beings move like that. Not even after bomb scares. Not after blackouts. This wasn't panic anymore. It was migration. People flooding underground with the same desperate instinct animals have before earthquakes. Cars jammed every entrance ramp. Families abandoned luggage halfway down stairwells. Children got separated from parents every few seconds. Transit workers screamed directions nobody listened to. The deeper people moved below street level, the calmer they became. Like even without understanding what was happening, everybody knew the sky itself had become dangerous. I parked the bus halfway across a loading lane because there was nowhere else to go. The moment the doors opened, passengers surged out. Some thanked me, most didn't. Fear strips politeness out of people fast. Melissa stayed near the front, helping an elderly man down the steps. Victor remained seated in the rear, holding his arm, trying not to look at the blood soaking through his sleeve. You coming? I asked. He stared at the bite. Not yet. Melissa walked toward him carefully. Victor, we need to move before more infected arrive. He gave her a tired smile. You know what I always hated about hospitals? Melissa frowned. What? Everybody lies to dying people. She didn't answer, because there wasn't one. The terminal smelled like sweat, engine fuel, wet concrete, and fear. Thousands of people crowded beneath flickering fluorescent lights. Some sat against walls, hyperventilating. Others stared blankly at dead phones. A police officer vomited into a trash can near the escalators. Nobody looked in charge. That was the real moment civilization felt broken to me. Not the attacks. Not the screaming. The absence of control. Near Platform C, volunteers had already started building makeshift barricades from maintenance carts and metal benches. That was where I met Naomi, former radio producer. Short, dark hair, leather jacket, eyes that constantly scanned exits while talking. She had a transit map spread across the floor and was assigning strangers into supply groups like she'd been preparing for collapse her whole life. "You drove one of the buses in?" she asked me. I nodded. "Good. We need drivers if we start moving people, tunnel to tunnel." No wasted sympathy, no false reassurance, straight to survival. That alone made people trust her. Melissa introduced herself. Victor stayed farther back near the wall. Naomi noticed the blood immediately. "He's bitten." Not fear. Not judgment. Just identification. Victor laughed weakly. "You sound disappointed." "No," Naomi replied. "Just planning ahead." That line told me exactly who she was. Practical enough to survive. Maybe practical enough to stop feeling human. A sudden scream erupted from the upper escalators. Crowds surged backward instantly. An infected man sprinted downward, covered in blood. Security officers tackled him near the ticket gates. He bit through one officer's ear before another guard shot him twice in the chest. The gunshots changed the entire atmosphere. Children started crying. People screamed. Somebody shouted that the infected were inside already. Another person yelled that the military was bombing the city. Rumors spread faster than oxygen. Naomi climbed onto a metal bench. "Listen to me," her voice cut through the panic. "This place only works if people stay calm and stay underground. Nobody goes near the surface alone. Nobody looks outside. We keep entrances sealed, and we move in groups." Somebody yelled back, "Who the hell made you boss?" Naomi answered instantly, "Nobody, but I'm talking while everybody else is panicking." Nobody challenged her after that. Then the terminal lights flickered. Once, twice, and somewhere above us, the entire city screamed together. The sound pushed through layers of concrete like pressure underwater. Victor slowly looked upward. "They're multiplying," he whispered. Cars jammed every entrance ramp. People flooded down stairwells carrying children, luggage, pets, blankets. Nobody looked organized. Nobody looked in charge. I parked the bus halfway across a loading lane because there was nowhere else to go. The moment the doors opened, panic surged. Passengers rushed into the terminal. Victor stayed behind. He was sitting near the rear, holding pressure against his arm. Blood soaked through his sleeve. "You coming?" I asked. He stared at the bite. "Not yet." Melissa knelt beside him. "Victor, I know what happens." He said it calmly. Too calmly. That scared me more than the wound. The terminal smelled like sweat, fuel, and fear. Thousands of people crowded beneath flickering fluorescent lights. Transit workers tried directing civilians deeper underground, while police screamed contradictory instructions. Every few seconds, somebody near the entrances would glance upward toward the street level. Then, nearby, people would physically drag them back down. Rumors spread faster than facts. "It's gas. It's terrorism. It came from satellites. The moon exploded." Nobody knew, but everybody agreed on one thing. Looking at the sky triggered it. Near Platform C, I met Naomi, former radio producer, short hair, leather jacket. Voice too steady for the situation. She was organizing strangers into supply groups using a transit map spread across the floor. "You drove one of the buses in?" she asked me. I nodded. "Good. We need drivers." Straight to business. No panic, no false comfort. That alone made people listen to her. Melissa introduced herself. Victor stayed near the tunnel wall, pretending not to struggle. Naomi noticed immediately. "He's bitten." Not a question. Victor gave a tired smile. "You sound disappointed." "No," Naomi said, "just planning ahead." That line told me everything about her. Practical to the point of cruelty, or maybe practicality was the only thing left. A sudden scream echoed through the terminal. Crowds surged backward. An infected man sprinted down an escalator covered in blood. Security officers tackled him. He bit through one officer's ear before another guard shot him twice. The gunshots changed the atmosphere instantly. People started crying harder. Children screamed. A woman near me whispered prayers. The illusion of control vanished. Naomi climbed onto a bench. "Listen to me." Her voice cut through the noise. "This place only works if people stay calm and stay underground. Nobody goes near the surface alone. Nobody looks outside. We keep lights on, entrances sealed, and we move in groups." Somebody shouted, "Who made you boss?" Naomi answered without hesitation, "Nobody. But I'm talking while everybody else is panicking." Nobody argued after that. Then the terminal lights flickered. The screaming above us returned, muffled through concrete. Thousands of voices at once. Victor quietly said, "They're multiplying." By midnight, the terminal had become its own fragile society. Barricades built from maintenance carts, medical stations made from vending machine supplies, transit maps covered in handwritten notes. Nobody slept. Every few minutes, another group stumbled underground from the streets. Most arrived terrified. Some arrived bleeding. A few arrived silent and staring upward. Those people never lasted long. Melissa worked non-stop treating injuries. I helped Naomi organize transportation tunnels. Victor sat apart from everybody near an inactive rail platform, watching us, watching himself. The bite on his arm had darkened almost black. Around 2 a.m, power failed across half the station. Darkness rolled through the terminal like water. People panicked instantly. Flashlights snapped on. Children screamed. Then came the pounding. Above us, not random, rhythmic. Hundreds of impacts striking the streets overhead. Naomi grabbed a radio. Nothing but static. Then a voice finally broke through. "Don't let them inside!" Screaming, gunfire, silence. A teenager named Luis came running from Tunnel 4. "The west entrance is breached." Everybody moved at once. We reached the stairwell just as infected flooded downward. Not stumbling, not mindless, fast, focused. The first infected wore a business suit soaked in blood. His jaw hung crooked. He slammed into a barricade hard enough to flip it. Then the others poured behind him. The crowd broke. People ran deeper underground. Others froze completely. I grabbed a metal pipe from a maintenance cart while Victor limped beside me. "You should sit this out," I told him. He laughed weakly. A little late for safety advice. The fighting turned ugly fast. Close, chaotic. No heroic moments. Just terrified people trying not to get dragged down. Melissa shoved a child behind a ticket counter while Naomi coordinated retreat routes. Victor saved me. An infected woman nearly tackled me from the side before Victor crushed her skull against the wall. But afterward, he staggered. His breathing changed. Faster. Uneven. He knew it too. The infected suddenly stopped. Every one of them. Mid-attack. They turned upward together, even underground. The silence that followed felt impossible. Then they screamed. Not at us, at the ceiling. Concrete dust drifted down as the sound echoed through the tunnels, and somewhere above the city, something answered. A low vibration. too deep to hear properly. More like feeling a giant engine turning overhead. The infected resumed attacking with even greater violence. Naomi shouted, "Move! Move now!" We retreated deeper into the rail system while the terminal collapsed behind us. And Victor began coughing blood into his hand. We sealed ourselves inside an abandoned maintenance tunnel beneath Harbor District. 31 survivors. That was all, out of thousands above us. The tunnel smelled damp and metallic. Emergency lights painted everybody orange. No cell service, no outside contact, only distant screams filtering through miles of concrete. Victor sat against the wall, breathing harder every minute. Melissa stayed beside him, despite Naomi's objections. "If he turns in here, everybody dies," Naomi warned. Victor gave a tired grin. "Nice to know I'm still important." Melissa ignored Naomi. That was her flaw. She couldn't emotionally detach, even now, especially now. Luis and 2 others searched nearby storage rooms for supplies. I tried fixing an old transit radio, mostly to keep my hands busy. People cope strangely when civilization ends. Some pray, some organize, some fix broken machinery, because it feels like normal life. A little after 3 in the morning, we heard movement deeper in the tunnel. Slow footsteps. Everybody froze. Naomi raised a flashlight. A woman emerged from the darkness, carrying a little girl. Neither were injured. The woman introduced herself as Dana. Teacher. The child was her daughter Ivy, 8 years old. Neither had looked at the sky directly. That mattered now like vaccination status in another world. Dana described what happened topside, before they escaped underground. People started gathering in intersections, she said, not attacking at first, just staring up. Then the screaming spread. After that, she stopped. Ivy finished quietly. They started eating people. Nobody corrected her. Dana also told us something worse. The infected avoided dark enclosed spaces unless they were hunting. They preferred open streets. Open sky, like they were waiting for something. That sentence settled over the tunnel heavily. Waiting for what? Victor suddenly looked upward. Everybody reacted instantly. Melissa grabbed his face. "Victor, look at me!" He struggled, not violently, almost dreamlike. "I can hear them," he whispered. The tunnel went silent. "Hear who?" I asked. Victor smiled faintly. "The ones above the clouds." Naomi stepped backward immediately. Her hand tightened around the pistol taken from a dead officer. Melissa saw it. "No." Naomi's voice stayed cold. "You heard what he said?" Victor closed his eyes. "Do it before I hurt somebody." Melissa started crying, quietly, trying not to. Victor looked at me instead. "Aaron." I couldn't answer. "Don't let me become one of them." Nobody moved for several seconds. Then, somewhere above us, the entire city screamed together. Victor died at 4:12 in the morning. I remember the exact time because I kept staring at the broken digital clock beside the maintenance office after it happened. Melissa couldn't do it. Naomi wouldn't risk waiting longer. So it became my decision. Victor made it easier than he should have. "You drive people for a living," he told me quietly. "Means you already know the hardest thing in the world. Sometimes you keep moving even when somebody can't come with you." Then he handed me the pistol. No speeches, no dramatic goodbye, just exhaustion. I still hear the shot in my sleep. Afterward, nobody spoke to me for a long time. Not because they blamed me, because they were imagining themselves in Victor's place. The tunnel felt smaller after that, heavier. By dawn, strange vibrations began moving through the concrete around us. Not earthquakes, patterns, like something enormous drifting overhead. Dust fell constantly from the ceiling. Ivy asked the question nobody wanted to say aloud. "Are they coming down?" Nobody answered. Around 8 in the morning, Luis returned from scouting deeper rail tunnels. He'd found another survivor group 3 stations north, military, or what was left of it. Naomi wanted contact immediately. Melissa didn't trust them. "People with guns start deciding who matters," she said. Naomi replied instantly, "People without guns die first." Different survival philosophies. That tension followed us constantly. We eventually moved north through abandoned maintenance tracks. Darkness, water dripping through concrete, bodies occasionally appearing in the tunnels, some torn apart, some untouched. Every untouched corpse had the same expression, eyes wide, face tilted upward, even in death. We reached the military survivors around noon. 6 soldiers, 20 civilians, barricaded inside an underground train platform. Their leader was Sergeant Reeves, early 40s, calm voice, dead eyes, the kind of man who already accepted catastrophe and moved anyway. Reeves explained the military response had collapsed within hours. Aircraft disappearing, pilots looking upward mid-flight, entire evacuation centers turning infected simultaneously, cities worldwide going dark. "This isn't local," he told us. "Whatever this is, it hit everywhere." Then he revealed the worst part. The infected weren't random. They gathered, migrated, moved toward open areas under the sky, stadiums, bridges, parks. As though waiting for instructions, Melissa asked the question quietly. "Instructions from what?" Reeves didn't answer directly. Instead, he pointed upward. Even underground, everybody understood. The military group had equipment, food, generators, working radios. They also had rules, harsh ones. Anybody exposed too long to open sky isolation was quarantined. Anybody showing symptoms was executed immediately. No exceptions. Naomi approved. Melissa hated it. I found myself drifting somewhere in between. That scared me. Because a week earlier, I would have called those rules monstrous. Now they sounded practical. The infected attacked again that evening, but differently this time. Not a chaotic rush, a coordinated breach. 3 maintenance doors simultaneously, like they'd mapped the station. Reeves directed defenses while civilians fled deeper into the tunnels. I fought beside him near the south barricade. The infected moved with terrifying focus. They ignored easy targets if another path led farther underground, almost strategic. One nearly reached Ivy before Dana stabbed it repeatedly with a screwdriver. Afterward, Dana collapsed, shaking uncontrollably. Ivy hugged her silently. No child should adapt that quickly. That realization hurt more than the attack. During the fighting, one infected stopped directly in front of me. Young woman. Office clothes. Blood around her mouth. She didn't attack. She stared upward and whispered, "They're almost here." Then she smiled, a genuine smile, and tore her own throat open against exposed metal. I froze. Reeves shoved me aside seconds before another infected lunged. "Stay focused." After the attack, Reeves pulled me aside. "You heard them talking too?" I nodded. He looked exhausted. "They aren't losing intelligence," he said. "They're gaining something else." That sentence stayed with me. Later that night, Naomi showed me intercepted emergency broadcasts fragmented recordings from other cities. London, Tokyo, Chicago. Everywhere the same reports. Mass skyward fixation, screaming, violence, then gatherings. Huge gatherings, millions of infected clustering beneath open sky. One recording ended with a pilot screaming, "Something is moving above the clouds," then static. Melissa overheard enough to confront Naomi. People are breaking psychologically because of this information. Naomi crossed her arms. Reality doesn't stop existing because it hurts morale. Neither does humanity. Naomi's expression hardened. Humanity is exactly what's getting us killed. Their argument stopped when the station lights flickered again. Then every radio activated simultaneously, not static, breathing. Deep, wet, massive. The sound filled the platform. Several civilians immediately looked upward instinctively. One began screaming, and outside the station, thousands of infected answered. Reeves decided we had to move. The station wouldn't survive another coordinated assault. His plan was insane. Reach the old emergency shelter beneath City Hall. 4 miles through partially collapsed subway lines. Above-ground travel meant exposure. Underground travel meant infected nests. There were no good choices left. We moved in staggered groups, flashlights off whenever possible, quiet, fast. The tunnels changed the farther north we traveled. More bodies, more strange markings on the walls, not graffiti, finger streaks, thousands of them pointing upward. At one flooded tunnel intersection, we discovered an entire crowd of infected standing motionless in chest-deep water. Dozens, not attacking, just staring toward a crack in the tunnel ceiling where daylight filtered through. Nobody spoke while we passed. The infected ignored us completely, like worshippers. Halfway through the journey, Luis disappeared. One moment he was behind me, next moment, gone. We found him standing near an emergency ladder leading to the surface, looking up, smiling. Melissa approached carefully. "Luis?" He whispered something. I stepped closer. "They showed me," he said. "Showed you what?" Tears streamed down his face. "Why we're alive." Naomi raised her weapon instantly. Melissa blocked her. "He's still himself." Luis suddenly grabbed Melissa's wrist, hard. "You have to look," he begged. "You have to see them." That desperation terrified me more than aggression, not hunger. Conversion. Reeves made the decision. He struck Luis unconscious with the butt of his rifle. Melissa exploded. "What is wrong with you people?" Reeves answered coldly. "I'm trying to keep him from opening that hatch." Nobody argued after that. We restrained Luis and kept moving. But during the final tunnel stretch, he started screaming. Not randomly. Words. "They can hear us." Then the infected came. From every direction, the tunnel battle scattered us completely. Gunfire flashed through darkness. People ran blind. Screams echoed everywhere. I lost sight of Melissa. Lost sight of Naomi. At some point, Reeves dragged me through a maintenance doorway and sealed it behind us. Only 7 survivors remained inside, and above us, something huge moved across the sky. Close enough now that the entire city vibrated beneath it. We reached the City Hall shelter at sunrise, or what should have been sunrise. No natural light reached the streets anymore. The clouds above the city had thickened into a solid black ceiling. Even underground, we could feel its presence. Pressure, like the atmosphere itself, had become heavier. The shelter housed maybe 80 survivors. Doctors, transit workers, a few exhausted police officers. No functioning government, no military command, just fragments of people trying to pretend civilization still existed. Melissa arrived 2 hours after us with Dana and Ivy. I didn't realize how relieved I was until I saw her alive. Naomi returned separately, alone. Luis was gone. She never explained what happened. Nobody asked. The shelter's leader was an astrophysicist named Dr. Eli Mercer. Gray-haired, sleep-deprived, completely obsessed. He'd been monitoring atmospheric anomalies before communication networks collapsed. According to Mercer, something entered Earth's atmosphere 3 days earlier. Not spacecraft, not meteorites, living organisms, massive ones, hidden inside cloud systems. Nobody believed him initially. Then he showed us satellite images. Shapes, enormous shapes, moving inside storm fronts. My stomach turned. Mercer believed the creatures communicated neurologically through visual exposure. Looking upward, established contact. The screaming was the human brain failing during transmission. Some people died. Others changed. The infected aren't diseased, Mercer explained quietly. They're repurposed. Nobody liked that word. Repurposed. As if humanity had become raw material. Melissa asked the obvious question. Why? Mercer looked toward the ceiling. I think they're preparing us for assimilation. Silence swallowed the room. Naomi finally spoke. Can they reach underground? Mercer hesitated. That hesitation told us enough. Later, Reeves privately admitted ammunition was almost gone. Food would last maybe a week. The shelter wasn't salvation, just delay. That night, the city went silent. No screams, no gunshots, no sirens. Only distant vibrations above the clouds. The silence felt wrong, predatory. Then Ivy quietly asked, "What if everybody already looked up?" Nobody answered her. Mercer became convinced the creatures would descend fully within 24 hours. His theory sounded insane, until we heard them, not through radios, directly. Whispers moving through the shelter vents. Hundreds of voices layered together. Some survivors covered their ears. Others started crying. One man walked calmly toward the surface stairwell before guards stopped him. He kept repeating, "They're calling us home." Melissa confronted Mercer angrily. "You knew this was getting worse." "Knowledge isn't control," Mercer snapped. That was the first time I saw him lose composure. Naomi proposed abandoning the shelter entirely. Move deeper underground. Sub-basement utility tunnels. Mercer disagreed. Distance won't matter once they descend. Reeves finally asked the question everybody avoided. Then what actually stops them? Mercer looked exhausted. Sensory deprivation, darkness, isolation from visual stimulus, which meant surviving meant living blind underground indefinitely, not survival, burial. Tension inside the shelter cracked that afternoon. A guard caught 2 civilians trying to reach the surface. They claimed the voices promised safety, food, peace. One of them said something I'll never forget. The infected aren't suffering anymore. That idea spread dangerously fast. Not everybody feared becoming infected now. Some wanted escape from terror. Naomi noticed it first. "They're recruiting," she whispered to me. That evening, Mercer finally showed us direct telescope footage. Actual footage. The room went completely still. Something enormous moved inside the cloud layer. Not fully visible, just portions, skin, or membrane. Massive structures drifting through storms and hanging beneath them. Shapes, thousands of shapes, Human bodies suspended in the air, still alive. The recording ended when the observer began screaming. Dana vomited. Melissa sat down hard against the wall. Reeves simply closed his eyes. Naomi stared at the screen without emotion, then quietly said, "We were never the top of the food chain." The shelter collapsed from inside, not from attack, from belief. At some point during the night, dozens of survivors willingly opened the surface doors. By the time alarms sounded, infected were already pouring downstairs. The battle became immediate chaos. No organized defense, no strategy. People fighting each other as much as the infected. Some survivors tried reaching the surface voluntarily. Others shot them. Mercer disappeared during the first breach. I never saw him again. Reeves organized retreat toward the utility tunnels. Melissa refused to abandon trapped civilians. That nearly got her killed. I found her in a corridor trying to drag an injured officer away from approaching infected. "We have to move. I can't leave him." The officer himself grabbed her sleeve. "You already know the answer," he whispered. Melissa broke then. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just this exhausted collapse in her face. The realization that compassion had become mathematically impossible. We left him behind. I still hate myself for hearing the screams afterward and continuing to run. Naomi sealed blast doors behind us while infected hammered against the metal. Dana carried Ivy through waist-deep water. Reeves limped badly from a bite hidden beneath his vest. He finally admitted it once we reached the lower utility chamber. Nobody reacted. We were too tired, too emptied out. Reeves handed Naomi his rifle. "You're better at surviving than I am." Naomi looked genuinely disturbed by the compliment. The whispers above us grew louder, closer. Then the entire city shook. Concrete cracked overhead. Dust exploded through the tunnel ceiling. Something had landed, not metaphorically. Physically. We heard it moving above the streets, a sound too large for the human brain, like buildings bending. Ivy started crying silently. Dana held her tight. Melissa stared into darkness and whispered, "They came down." Reeves turned during the night. No screaming, no violence. He simply opened his eyes and stopped being human. Naomi shot him immediately. Cleaner than Victor. Faster. She didn't hesitate anymore. That frightened me almost as much as the creatures above us. The remaining survivors. Me. Melissa. Naomi. Dana. Ivy. 5 people underground while the world ended overhead. The utility maps showed one possible escape route. A sealed hydroelectric maintenance sector beneath the river. No surface exposure. No skylight access. Complete darkness. Mercer's theory suggested it might shield us. Might. The tunnels toward the river were ancient. Flooded. Barely stable. But staying meant death. As we moved, the sounds above the city became clearer. Mass movement. Thousands of infected traveling together. Not hunting. Migrating. Following the descending creatures. At one collapsed tunnel intersection, we finally saw the sky again through a massive crack overhead. Clouds churned unnaturally low, and beneath them, something moved, enormous limbs unfolding through storm clouds. Dana looked accidentally, only for a second. That was enough. She froze instantly. Melissa grabbed her. "Dana!" Dana started crying while staring upward. "They're beautiful," she whispered. Ivy screamed for her mother. Naomi raised the rifle. Melissa stepped between them. "No!" Dana's expression changed. Not pain, relief. That terrified me most. She gently pushed Ivy toward us. Keep her underground. Then Dana climbed upward through the rubble toward the surface. Ivy tried chasing her. I held the girl back, while Dana disappeared into gray light above. Moments later, the screaming started, then stopped abruptly. Naomi stared at me. That happens to the kid. We do it fast. I almost hit her, but part of me understood. That part made me feel sick. The hydroelectric sector sat beneath the river like a buried tomb. Massive turbines, concrete corridors. Absolute darkness once we shut the blast doors. No sky, no windows, no voices. For the first time since the nightmare began, the whispers stopped. Mercer had been right. Isolation worked. But survival underground came with another cost. Time lost meaning. Days blended together beneath emergency lanterns. Food dwindled. The world above remained unknown. Sometimes distant vibrations passed through the river walls, massive things moving across the city. Other times, we heard nothing at all. That silence frightened me worse. Melissa changed slowly. Not infected. Exhausted. Haunted. She still tried protecting Ivy emotionally. Still tried pretending kindness mattered. Naomi focused entirely on survival calculations, ration schedules, water purification, exit contingencies. She became colder every day. Necessary. Efficient. Terrifying. One night Ivy asked me what the sky looked like now. Nobody answered immediately, because none of us wanted to imagine it. Weeks passed, maybe months. Then the generators finally began failing. Naomi argued we should attempt surface reconnaissance. Melissa refused. The moment we look up, it's over. Naomi's voice stayed flat. If we stay here, we starve anyway. The argument ended when we heard something outside the blast door. A voice. Human. Weak. Please, help me. Ivy moved first. Melissa grabbed her instantly. Naomi raised the rifle. The voice continued, crying, begging. Then another voice joined it. Then dozens. Human voices layered together outside the door, all begging softly to be let inside. Melissa looked horrified. That's impossible. Naomi whispered, They learned. The voices outside slowly shifted, less crying, more synchronized, then together, in perfect unison, Look up. The blast door began shaking. Not from fists, from something enormous moving outside the chamber. Concrete dust drifted from the ceiling. Ivy buried her face against Melissa. Naomi chambered the final rifle round. And for the first time since the nightmare started, I realized humanity might already be extinct. I'm recording this months later, maybe longer. The watches stopped working underground a while ago. Naomi is dead. She used the last bullet when the outer tunnel collapsed. Melissa barely sleeps anymore. Ivy still asks about sunlight. I still lie to her. Sometimes the voices return through the pipes. Soft. Patient. Never angry. That's the worst part. They don't hate us. They don't even seem cruel. Just hungry. Like the entire human race is something waiting to be absorbed. A few days ago, I climbed halfway toward the surface maintenance ladder. Not enough to see outside, just enough to feel air moving down from above. Warm air, wet air, and underneath it, breathing. Massive breathing. The sky is still there, waiting. Melissa thinks we should stay underground forever. Naomi used to call that a slower version of dying. Maybe she was right. Maybe survival only matters if there's still a world left to survive in. Yesterday the generators finally failed for almost 10 full minutes. Complete darkness. No lights. No sound except river water moving through the concrete walls. I heard Ivy crying quietly somewhere beside us. Then, from above, I heard people walking. Thousands of footsteps. Slow. Organized. Like an entire city marching overhead. Not hunting. Migrating. Following something. Melissa grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. Because we both realized the same thing at the exact same moment. The infected weren't searching for survivors anymore. They were leaving. Whatever came down from the sky, it was moving on. And humanity was moving with it. This might be the last recording anyone ever hears. If somebody finds this underground years from now, remember one thing. The screaming was never fear. It was recognition. People looked at the sky, and something looked back. Sometimes I still wonder what would happen if I finally saw it for myself. Whether I'd scream or smile. Either way, I know one thing now. If you ever hear people screaming outside at night, don't look up.